The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
At that very hour some Pharisees came and said to Jesus, "Get away from here, for Herod wants to kill you." Jesus said to them, "Go and tell that fox for me, 'Listen, I am casting out demons, performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day I will finish my work. Yet today, tomorrow, and the next day I must be on my way, because it is impossible for a prophet to be killed outside of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you. And I tell you, you will not see me until the time comes when you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" The Gospel of Christ.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Just before I begin, I want to thank Amanda, our server, because she knit me this beautiful Lenten stole. Thank you so much, Amanda. God, your light is ever before us and within us. Illumine your word. Amen. On one family trip some years ago to France and England, we boarded the huge jumbo jet airplane with little thought to our safety. But as we took off, I looked immediately above the right wing. I was fascinated watching those huge bird-like wings going through their maneuvers to increase our wind, velocity, and speed. Suddenly, I thought about the disastrous consequences of ice freezing on the wings, and how so completely I had entrusted my life and the life of my little ones to those wings being in perfect working order. Maybe our children hadn't thought about whether the wings or pilot were trustworthy. They had trusted us, their parents, to never place them in danger's way. Yet, life has no guarantees, and even as we trust, we risk. For even those who love us dearly cannot guarantee our security or health and wealth. The kind of trustworthiness they can offer is their fidelity, love, commitment, honesty, respect, and care. Sometimes we want more than this and are disappointed when what we want cannot be given. No job is guaranteed, no marriage is problem-proof, and no person's life and happiness is an absolute assurance another can offer you. Yet I remember several years ago, and you might too, do you remember the Loblaws commercials and Dave Nicholson got on? Do you remember the 3 words he said over and over again? I guarantee it. Be it the price, the freshness, or quality of his products, or the satisfaction of his customers. He guaranteed it because I'm sure he believed he has good products, but he also knows what we want to hear. We like guarantees. They are comforting and echo over and over again in the selling of products or services that we use. And it usually works. The first thing we want to know is how long is the guarantee and what does it cover? However, they do not tell us the whole story, for no one can guarantee, as I said, our satisfaction, health and wealth, or social status or peace of mind. It'd be great if every diet product always worked, if airplane wings or engine parts never failed, if investments were always financially profitable, and surgery always meant full recovery. Even as we entrust our health, for example, to capable doctors and nurses, and our own healthy lifestyle choices, life has taught us to also accept risk. And we do. We know people get injured and die in traffic accidents and airplane crashes, like last week's 737 Boeing aircraft. Yet how many of us have therefore stopped getting in our car or will never board another plane? We try to drive safely and choose wisely where we place our trust. But we know built into the fabric of life is risk. Now, faith in God requires a leap for us that feels like a huge risk, because God asks nothing less of us than to trust implicitly our life in God's hands. We're asked to trust the will of God for us and the path God unfolds. And while everything in our Christian faith confirms that God is trustworthy, that God is faithful to us, all good, powerful, in a way that nothing else and no one else can be, we balk. Didn't Jesus Christ, God's only Son, get crucified? Didn't early Christians die more often in prisons, at the stake, or in stonings than peaceably in their beds in their old age? What kind of security is this? And don't Christians, in striving to be honest and kind, often get taken advantage of? Even as Jesus stands in the gospel on a hillside just outside Jerusalem, he's there because he's just been told by the Pharisees, get away from here. Here, Jerusalem will be your death, for Herod wants to kill you. And so Jesus laments to the wind and to himself, to God, O Jerusalem, killing the prophets and stoning those who are sent to you, how often I would have gathered you as children, as a mother hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you would not. Behold, your house is forsaken. The price people have paid for withholding their trust in God is huge, and Jesus grieves for people who have cut themselves off from such grace. If you were to climb the western slope of the Mount of Olives, just across from the Kidron Valley from Jerusalem, you would reach the hilltop near Jerusalem where Jesus stood and wept over the city he had come to serve, but instead were driving him away. Here, as you contemplate how this prodigal Son of God would yet return and lavish extravagant love upon them, you will come upon this Franciscan chapel of Dominius Flevit, which means in Latin, the Lord wept. It was constructed in the shape of a teardrop to symbolize the Lord's tears. And archaeologists have uncovered on this site the ruins of a 5th century Byzantine church, and some of the mosaics of which still remain. And this is one of them. It's been restored. An altar has this mosaic in it at the foot of the altar of the mother hen gathering her chicks under her wings, giving us a beautiful feminine image of God as mothering all of us, protecting us, keeping us under her shelter in trouble and sorrow, and helping us to likewise grow in courage and compassion and love as we receive healing and hope for ourselves and for others. Without the love of God to sustain them, Jesus knows that they will be lost in their times of trouble. When famine comes, when wars, and even the temple crumbles, they'll not have built loving relationships and communities, spiritual resources to sustain them. They will not have a vision. Jesus will not force us to love and trust him. You can turn away from this offer of love. And it grieves Jesus, and we can almost sense his defeat and disappointment. We can certainly understand it. We cannot force someone to love or trust us. We can only invite them to get to know us and live lives ourselves that invite trust because we are honest, reliable, loving, and kind. To trust in God's purposes and presence is placing our trust in the best hands we could hold. And sometimes we need to get to know God a step at a time to trust those hands, those sheltering wings. And then from those wings, to venture forth, returning again and again. But like Abraham, we want assurances, and like the Pharisees, we want signs, and like Thomas, we want proof before we decide. We have doubts, like our great forefather Abraham. He wanted guarantees before he took another step in God's direction. And what's neat is that God addresses that right away. Fear not, Abraham. I am your shield. So reassured, Abraham moves a little closer, but then like us, he takes another step backwards. And he says, wait a minute, God. What did you say you're going to give me? He is bargaining and weighing if what gained is worth what is lost. We often stand in our life in such a place. There are moments when we withhold trust in a partner, in a friend, or in God, until we see exactly what we are getting and what it might mean we have to give up. If a loved one asks us to give up a bad habit to strengthen the trust in our relationship, we may decide to, but we may decide not to. And we might say, you're asking more than I'm prepared to give you. I don't see it as necessary. It doesn't equal out. And sometimes we know it's a big mistake and we wish we had decided differently. In business dealing, this weighing out can make perfect sense. No one puts down a hefty deposit on a house they haven't closely examined. But with God, all our blessings are not always immediately visible. Some are unfolding and coming to be in God's time and way. And once more, God asks of us to trust the one who is bringing them to pass, assuring us our investment of faith is worth it more than we can imagine. Now, it's a small but a very interesting fact, as you might know, that God did not part the Red Sea for Moses and the Israelites. And a lot of times people miss this until Moses took the first step into the turbulent water and then it parted. It did not first part and leave a nice sandy dry patch for Moses to step daintily on. Only when he trusted God did the path open and the waters part. And at this critical point, Moses had the choice to blame God for the pickle they were in and die there in battle that they couldn't win, or risk trusting and step in the water. And I know that you've done that. You've stepped into deep water with only faith as your life jacket. And God can work with that. It took a while for Abraham, though, to work with that. And God had to keep in conversation with him. He doesn't say yes to God at first. He blames God. He says, wait a minute, I'm childless. You gave me no children. So how can I trust you? I blame you for my life. And likewise, the citizens of Jerusalem blame Jesus for breaking rules even when he is trying to break open the profound love of God in a fresh and new way. It's easy to slip from trust to blame for the bad things that happen in our life. Health hurdles, relationship crashes, plans gone awry, unfair treatment. And God is just a convenient place to cast those feelings. Last Sunday, we had with us, and I hope I have your permission, Henry and Carol, to say this, dear friends of the Lanes, Pastor Canon, and he brought from his parish a fine young man who is in the path of ministry and in studies. That young man had just heard that morning that his mother, who was scheduled for the flight of the Boeing 737 that crashed, had just missed her flight and had to wait to board the next flight. How precarious sometimes our life is. And in this moment, of course, he must have felt both profound gratitude and deep sorrow for the lives, including many Canadians, that didn't have more time on earth, didn't get to say goodbye or complete their dreams, their projects, their lives as they hoped. Maybe Abraham had dreams and hopes and loved ones he was not ready to say goodbye to when God said, go, leave it all and follow me. Maybe Jesus had tears to think that he had to let go of the dream and hope he had that we would accept him, that we would welcome his presence and wisdom, and that he could be a bridge to God for us without the cross. The scripture says, the Lord brought Abraham outside and said, look toward heaven and number the stars. Sometimes in our place of blame or questioning and doubting, in our times where we think God is unfair in this world, God takes us outside of ourselves and forces us to look at life in a bigger way. He makes us count the stars and see the large picture for our life. Sometimes whole congregations need to do that, to gaze not at themselves, finding fault or maybe even praise, but gazing at God's great plan. Do you see what God is unfolding for us? Do we take time to count the stars and find all kinds of possibilities we never thought about, but God can open up? It was heart-wrenching, and in our prayers we will pray for more heart-wrenching news yesterday in our world. But in the week we were heart-wrenched to see, and some of you might saw this picture on the news, of someone's passport in the debris from the fatal plane crash of 157 people, cherished by God, by others, with their hopes and dreams and plans. Yet in this photo, the passport, not now to be used, was a reminder of the passport we have with God in our living and in our dying. In Jesus' courage to walk this Lent toward Jerusalem and love them and put before them a dream and reality of a kingdom there for the taking. So says God to Abraham, shall your descendants be as numerous as these stars. Are we beginning to understand the scope of God's generosity and love for us, and the great design for our lives if we would but trust those sheltering wings? The great patron saint of Ireland we honor today, a 5th century missionary, some say was captured at 16 by Irish pirates and taken from Britain as a slave to Ireland. And so, of course, he is counted as the founder of Christianity in that country, I'm sure with countless others. And there could not have possibly been less than hundreds of moments when he needed those sheltering wings and the courage to venture out. And without such trust, Christ's mission could not go forward through him. For all the times we travel stormy seas, for all the times we feel vulnerable or frightened, wondering if we should venture out, will this boat hold us? Will faith guarantee our safe passage? Is it foolish to even set sail? The walk of trust asks us to believe His love will carry us through. And there are people in your life who will be ambassadors of His love, as you are for others. I'd like to close, inviting us to say together the prayer of St. Brendan. And he was born in 484, which was 10 years after St. Patrick's death. He's known as the Navigator, as he formed a band of devoted disciples who brought much to enrich Ireland in their Celtic passion for Christ's goodness and joy. So let us pray and say together, shall I abandon? It's okay. I'm going to get away from the microphone. So to my homily, amen. And then we'll say it